Okay, so here we are, super friends, making the video that I've actually been asked to make a few times. It's very difficult because I love my Superman figures so much, all for different reasons. Like, I'm pretty much going to have to get buried with them, and the coffin's going to be so huge, you just have to shove me and all the figures in the coffin, and I won't be able to fit in the back of the hearse because the coffin's going to be so big. Just stick my coffin in the back of a dump truck and drive me out to, like, I wouldn't even probably fit in a graveyard. You'd just, like, dump me off in the backwoods in a big hole somewhere. No, I wouldn't even be able to do that. Tell you what, take me and all my Superman figures when I die and make a funeral pyre out of Superman figures and lay me on top of them and then drape a Superman cape on me and then just douse me with gasoline and set me on fire. Just flick a match. Just flick a match. And that's how I want to go. So it's a very hard video for me to make. Also, I customized the crap out of all my Superman figures, so it's so difficult to say which ones I like better because I'm always tinkering and trying to improve upon what I think needs to be improved. So it's difficult. I've narrowed it down to what are my 10 favorite Trunks Superman figures to start with. So let's start at number 10 and work our way up, shall we? For me, number 10 has to be the DC Direct Gimli version of Superman, not from the actual Hush line, but the one that came in the action figure 4-pack. It was the Superman for Tomorrow action figure. Yes, it's not perfect. You can't really stand it up without the stand because the cape kind of goes off to one side and it's kind of weird looking, but I love that figure. I love it on the stand. I love posing it around on the stand. And I love the fact that it's a Jim Lee version of Superman. Yes, the body proportions are even out a little bit. The body seems a little bit small for that head, but I just really like that figure. And I wish that we had got a better Jim Lee Superman figure, but it is my number 10 because I like the color scheme of it. I like the fact it's Jim Lee, and I actually happen to like the head sculpt, where a lot of people think it just looks like a weird demented Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like it. So number 10 is that Jim Lee DC Direct Superman from Superman for Tomorrow from the 4-pack. Number 9 for me is very simple. It's going to be the Superman that came in the Superman Batman 2-pack way back in like 2002. Not because it's the greatest Superman figure ever. It definitely falls short in some ways, and it kind of has long, spindly, froggy legs on that body. And the cape is really big and kind of ugly in some ways. I've customized that one before as well. But it's because of what it is. I had not seen a 6-inch scale Superman figure on the store shelves, like, ever. I collected the Superpowers figures, and I collected the DC superheroes, and then I didn't really buy any others unless it was DC Direct. And I expected DC Direct to have cool figures because they were right from the source. But this was the first time I'd seen a figure of Superman around this size out in the wild in the toy department of a Walmart or a Zellers or anywhere. And so I saw it on the shelves, and it was like, ah! And I grabbed it up, and I threw it in the cart. There was no chance I wasn't going to buy it. I didn't really care about the Batman. It was kind of weird and stupid looking because it wasn't the black and gray classic zipline in the package. It was the other one with the weird funky belt. But I liked that Superman figure so much. It is what got me recollecting action figures again, because I'd stopped before that. Aside from some DC Direct and aside from the Superpowers collection, I wasn't actively pursuing an action figure collecting lifestyle anymore. Besides, if it wasn't for that line of figures, we wouldn't have the DC superheroes, we wouldn't have the DC Universe Classics, we wouldn't have the current multiverse. It really was that line of Batman figures and how expansive it was that changed everything. Number 8 for me is the Mezco classic looking Superman. Now, some of you might say, that's not classic, there's no belt loops on the belt. Yeah, I get that. The belt loop should be there, but this really was Mezco's attempt at a classic looking Superman. And I like the fact that they've got the best of articulation mixed in with cloth goods clothing. So it's like Mego meets DC Universe Classics or something like that. And I like that figure. I like the texture of the cape. I like the costume. I love the head sculpt of that figure. And it can't be any higher on the list because it does fall short. The blue is not quite what I would like for the costume. Again, no belt loops, and the boots are a little bit too fancy. I would rather them just gone with a classic looking thing rather than, it almost looks like they tried to mimic Superman Returns with those boots. But this still does fall under a trunks/belt Superman. So that one for me is going to be number 8. The Mezco 1/12 Collective classic looking Superman. Number 7 is going to be that DC Direct 21 points of articulation Superman. I think he's better in the package than out of it, But I really like that figure. I think that he nails the basic overall look of a classic contemporary pre-New 52 Superman almost perfectly. Some people argue his cheeks might be a little bit too round and chubbyish looking. The reason why I can't put him any higher on the list is because if you look at the promo figure and then the one they released, they cut out an entire level of abs. Why? Why did they do that? It just looks stupid. It should have 3 layers of abs, not 2. So I can't give it a, and plus the articulation in the ankles and the knees can be kind of weird. It's really hard to get him to stand up once you've posed him around. Like the ones that I've taken out of the package more fresh, I don't touch the articulation. I stand it up and I leave it there like a statue, which makes those articulation points kind of useless if you ask me. You use them twice and then they're too weak to even be used, then what's the point of the articulation point? But I do love the figure. I love the overall attempt to make a very contemporary, classic looking Superman figure for its day, and I gotta hand it to DC Direct. It is, in my opinion, one of the best Superman figures ever made. Number 6, DC Icons classic looking Superman. That one is one of my favorites because it's in a smaller scale. Now my figures, I don't prefer them to be that small. I do like them to be a little bit bigger, but this one's just small enough that I usually keep one around on my desk to fiddle with. It's got enough articulation to keep me happy. Yes, I really do kind of wish there was a waist swivel. They went without it because they used a backwards kind of upside down ab crunch. And then they had the articulation in the torso with a ball joint. But I like the figure. I wish they had to change the blue color. Look, I've got one at my desk now that I'm customizing, fixing the crotch area so that the legs go up higher, and then I repainted it a lighter blue, and I'm going to give it a cloth goods cape. But it's definitely one of my favorite Superman figures, and if I could, I'd have like a whole case of just those to fiddle with. And vanilla, I think it holds its own, and it's an excellent Superman figure just to be left as is. Number 5 is going to be the DC Universe Classic Superman. Why? Well, there's been so many of them, and it's so versatile that Buck has been used so many times for so many things. I've had to buy them all multiple times because I do custom work, but I still do have some vanilla on card because I like the figure so much just as is. The blue is a little bit too dark for me, but some people like it that blue, and it seems to have found a kind of a middle ground with the basic figures, unless you get one of the All-Stars ones, which has the better painted eyes, but usually has a even darker blue. I'm not too down with that blue color, but in general, I love that figure because it has a good amount of articulation. I think one of the first ones actually had rocker ankles, and before they went to the big flat flipper duck feet versions. I think it's a great Superman, and if you're looking for one that is just going to be 6-inch scale that you can pose around to get some pretty good poses out of, you're probably going to like that one. It's one of the ones that I reach for, and well, again, look, I have a headless one right here that I've been working on. I've been customizing. So I've always got one at my workstation that I'm fiddling with. Number 4 for me is going to be that 7-inch scale NECA Christopher Reeve Superman figure. In spite of the fact that the knees and definitely the groin have a tendency to snap, I've fallen victim to that, as many other people have as well. NECA, what the heck's wrong with you? Get it together. Come on, stop this. You're like the only company that gave us a Christopher Reeve Superman action figure in that scale, and you bunged it up by making him have weak joints that snap. Jeez. But in spite of that, I really do love this figure so much that I've got one in the package, I've got one out of the package that I have posed on a shelf, and then I have one that I've customized as well. Reeve is my Superman. He's the one that I grew up watching. And even though I like all of the other Superman actors before and after, it was Reeve that made me believe that a man could fly. So for number 4, it's the NECA Christopher Reeve Superman action figure in the 7-inch scale. Number 3 for me is the DC Direct Classic Silver Age Superman Lois Lane 2-pack version, because he has that very cool generic classic 50s/60s Superman look to him. He's painted exceptionally, and I love the color scheme for him. I just think that he was a really great attempt at a Superman figure. That's, I mean, aside from the awesome looking packaging, the very classic looking super attractive packaging, I think that he's a great Superman figure, and he has a lot of articulation for early DC Direct figures. I think that DC Direct really tried to think it through to make something really cool for the fans. And yeah, he doesn't work completely. There are areas he definitely could have been done better, but you got to remember, this is like early 2000s, and for that age, I think he's fabulous. Besides, the first one I got was a wedding gift from my wife, so I have all them nostalgic feels that go along with it as well. I had the Superman on my bedside table, and she had the Lois Lane on hers for the longest time because she's my Lois Lane. Although I think she saves me a great deal more than I save her. So yeah, number 3, DC Direct Classic Silver Age Superman Lois Lane 2-pack version. Number 2, and this is going to cause some controversy, is the DC Essential Superman that has been newly released. Now, I know some of you are going to say, he's not the classic one. He's got the wrists. Oh, come on. Those wrist cuffs, you know that they're there because they tried to return him to his classic look, and they didn't want the fans to be like, look at that. Now Superman's basically just like he was before the New 52. It's like nothing ever changed. They were like, we should probably put those Rebirth cuffs back on him for this one. You know that those cuffs are going to go the way of the dodo bird. They're not going to be there forever, right? I mean, you do know that. This is basically a classic Superman. He's got the trunks, he's got the belt, and really that was the criteria for me, a classic looking Supes. And the reason why he's so high up on the list, in spite of his flaws, in spite of his gorilla arms, in spite of the fact they didn't paint the belt loops for the love of God and all things holy, why didn't they paint the belt loops before they released him? I have no idea. And the ankles can be weak. As a customizer, I can fix all that myself. But even if I didn't, I would still like him more than all of the other DC Direct Superman figures that I didn't mention, because he invites me to come and fiddle with him, to bend up his knees and get him into flight poses and stick him on stands and stuff like that. Because his articulation, aside from the weak ankles, it's actually pretty darn good. He is super highly articulated in comparison to like almost every other classic Superman figure that we've ever gotten. So for those reasons, and in spite of the negative things about this figure, he still is going to be my number 2 favorite Superman figure of all time. Okay, so for number 1, drumroll, Kenner Superpowers Collection Superman action figure. I love that figure. My all-time favorite Superman figure for sure. For one, the figure just looks so classic. People weren't concerned with whether he had or didn't have trunks back then. They were just like, it's Superman. He wears his undergotchis on the outside. It's weird looking, but hey, it's cool. He was so simple. He had the power action punch. You squeeze his legs and he punched or jogged, depending what you wanted him to do. He didn't have a ton of articulation, but he didn't need it because we were like, we don't need that. 1984, 85, 86, 87. He had articulated knees, basic groin. The arms didn't have any elbow articulation, head on a neck peg, but it's what he was. He was part of, in my opinion, one of the greatest action figure lines, also one of the most overlooked action figure lines ever. He's simple, he's effective, he's classic. He had that genius cloth goods cape for back in the day, back in 1985. Genius. Today, not gonna lie, I take them all off and I give them all new capes. But back then, genius. And really, before that, what did we have? We had Mego in the cloth goods, and then we had the little Mego Pocket Heroes. So these were a massive jump up in comic accuracy, playability, and fun as far as I'm concerned. So that's it. That's my top 10 classic Superman action figure list. But you know what? I'm curious to know what your top 10 Superman action figures are. Leave it down below, maybe numbered 1 to 10 from most favorite to the very bottom of the pile. No cheating and putting in anything that would be from one of the movies or from New 52 or Rebirth or Reborn, just classic. The criteria is belt and trunks and nothing big like 12-inch, because we all know that the bigger 12-inch figures tend to be more expensive and have a higher quality. So that, I feel like that'd be kind of like almost cheating. What are your favorite 6, 7, 8-inch scale, or even 4, 3 3/4 inch scale Superman action figures? That's what I want to know. Top 10 classic Superman action figures in those scales. Let me know down in the comment section below. If you like this video, leave a like on it. You want to see more of my face, hit the subscribe button, doink the bell so that maybe you never miss a video, and I will see you in the next one. Have an awesome day, super friends, and take care.